Good evening, this is Brastax. I'm Zaka Jacob. There is a big face-off that is brewing over the tiny island of Kachhatheevu, which is on the Palk Straits, just north of the Gulf of Mannar, between India and Sri Lanka. From Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, they've been firing at both the Congress and the DMK, saying that back in 1974, it was then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M. Karunanidhi, who gave away the Katchatheevu Island to Sri Lanka. The opposition has hit back at the government asking, why are you raking this up now after 50 long years? What did the Modi government do in the last 10 years to bring this island back? And most importantly, will this issue have any electoral relevance in the state of Tamil Nadu? But first, the story of this massive face-off over this tiny island.
तमिलनाडु से आगे श्रीलंका के पहले एक टापू किसने किसी दूसरे देश को दे दिया? कौन था उस समय? श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी के नेतृत्व में हुआ.
He says, my honorable friend from the DMK was just now talking about Kachhatheevu, the island. It appears to me that the DMK thinks that probably they can desperately cling to this issue and survive in Tamil Nadu.
People are rejecting them again. They want diversionary tactics. Their discrimination towards Tamil Nadu is well known.
We were never in favor of that giving away Kachhatheevu to Sri Lanka. In 1974, it is not the question. The question of giving away Kachhatheevu did not arise.
All right, so the crux of this debate has arisen now from an RTI that was filed by Tamil Nadu BJP chief K Annamalai. And in that RTI, it was revealed that back in 1961, Nehru had said that he would not hesitate in giving up the claims to Kachhatheevu. Now, in 1960, the then Attorney General of India, Mr. M.C. Setalvad, had opined that India's case was stronger than that of Sri Lanka's to claim this tiny island. Then, 10 years later, in 1974, the Indira Gandhi government said that India's claim to the island had to be balanced for better relations with Sri Lanka. But the RTI claims that the government back then in 74 was in possession of the original title of the Raja of Ramnad. Now, the claim was between the Raja of Ramnad and the government of Sri Lanka. The government of Sri Lanka claimed at that time that it had papers from what was considered the Jaffna Patnam kingdom. Jaffna, of course, was a thriving town, thriving city back in the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries. Now, the contention in this RTI is that there were papers, original land record papers from the Raja of Ramnad from 1875 to 1948 showing that this island was or belonged to the Raja of Ramnad or the princely kingdom of Ramnad. Now, meanwhile, Karunanidhi, who was the chief minister back then, was convinced by the then secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, Mr. Keval Singh, of the terms under the proposed settlement. Karunanidhi reportedly, according to this RTI, said that publicly he will not be able to take a stand in favor of this settlement because of political reasons, but privately he would back this settlement. Now, here is where it gets into an RTI versus RTI fight. The centre is hoping to corner the Congress and the DMK, but they have now released a 2015 RTI in which they reveal the Modi government's stand on the island. It was filed by Mr. Rajiv Ranjan, who at that time in 2015 was Under Secretary for Sri Lanka of the Government of India, and it stated in that RTI that the 1974 agreement, which was clinched by Indira Gandhi's government, did not involve either acquiring or ceding of Indian territory, because no territory belonging to India, there was no question of handing over any territory that belonged to India because it had never been demarcated in the first place. Under the agreements, the island of Kachhatheevu lies on the Sri Lankan side of the India-Sri Lanka international maritime boundary. This is the counter from the Congress and the DMK, and they are saying that what has the Modi government done in the last 10 years to change the status quo. Now, I will get to the electoral impact, if at all there will be any electoral impact of this in just a second. I'll explain that to you on the magic wall. But first, I want to go across to our guests who are joining us. Pratyush Kant is National Spokesperson of the BJP. Dr. Shama Mohammed is National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. Suman C. Raman, author and political analyst. And Smita Prakash is editor of ANI. Dr. Shama Mohammed, let me start with you first. The contention in this RTI that's been released is that the Indira Gandhi government decided to cede control of Kachhatheevu back in 1974. It was formalized through the India-Sri Lanka Maritime Agreement. The maritime boundary was settled in the Palk Straits. And at that time, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had sent the Secretary of External Affairs Ministry to Chennai to convince Mr. Karunanidhi to buy into this agreement. And the RTI reveals that privately Mr. Karunanidhi told the then Secretary that he is for this deal, although he cannot take a public stand in favor of this deal. The Modi government's contention is you gave away a part of sovereign Indian territory to Sri Lanka. You should not be talking about the Chinese occupying Indian territory.
Okay, first and foremost, Zaka, I find it all very laughable because suddenly Narendra Modi ji comes out with this. Now, he's been in power for the last 10 years. There's nothing, he doesn't talk anything about this for a long time. And what I wanted to say in this is you have replied to that, you have just said about the RTI in 2015, which exactly says that India did not cede any land or has not acquired any, and that island is more on the side of Sri Lanka. Now, a couple of points. What I have seen is for the past 1 month, they've been trying to break the alliance, India alliance. They know the DMK and the Congress are very close, and they want to bring about some sort of thing between the DMK and the Congress, which is not going to happen. The other thing is they want to divert the attention from the electoral bonds, which is also not going to happen. We will focus on that. The third thing is that if Mr. Modi was so concerned about Tamils, I want to ask him today, why didn't he include them, Sri Lanka, in the CAA? In the CAA, we do not have Sri Lanka. Tamilians are minorities in Sri Lanka. They come here to India. They take refuge in India. Now they cannot be citizens of India anymore, according to the CAA. So he does not care about it. It's all electoral politics. And we want to ask him today, why, when more than 2,000 square kilometers of land of ours is with China, why is he not talking about it? We have also ceded 15,000 acres to Bangladesh in the friendly thing. What about that? Why not talk about that also? So these are the points I would like to ask.
Let me ask Pratyush Kant about this. The Congress's counter is they are saying that you have ceded territory to China. This is one of the black spots of the record of the Modi government in the last 10 years. You don't want to have to contend with that. Therefore, you're going after all of these historical instances where the Congress party, while it was in power, has ceded Indian territory to Sri Lanka or to other countries. What about in 2015, the land border agreement with Bangladesh, where avowedly India gave up more enclaves than Bangladesh did for a peaceful settlement of that long-running boundary question?
See, in this case, you have to realize the history of it. Foreign Minister Jaishankar very categorically today in the morning, he did a press conference and clearly said that in 1974, the Congress decided to give away this island. They attached no importance to it, historically or otherwise. But in 1973 October, it happened in July, in 1973 October, the state government of Tamil Nadu also was in talks with them. And it was decided that they did go. Nehruji very categorically said he has no interest in this island. No interest whatsoever. Let it go. I will not apply myself towards it. Indira Gandhi believed it's just a piece of rock. So,
no, but Pratyush Kantji, how is that relevant in 2024, 50 years later?
Well, let me tell you, 6,184 fishermen has been caught there. They are Indian citizens. They are there because of the heartless non-appliance of mind which Congress did. There have been 1,175 fishermen, Indian vessels, which were seized by Sri Lanka. For what? In 1974. in July, when this happened, it was clearly stated that the Congress party gives away this to Sri Lanka. But the fishermen can always go and fish there. Everything will be status quo. Then in 1976, on a slide, they gave away all the rights. Now that is where the question arises.
Okay.
And history goes 20 years behind that. 20 years behind that. Innumerable dialogues takes place between Sri Lanka and India at different levels, foreign secretaries level, foreign ministers level, and India just gave everything. And when the opposition asked Nehruji in the parliament, why are you doing it? Nehruji said, please don't disturb. It's it's just like China, where about Ladakh he said there's no grass there. Why should I waste my time on that?
Okay.
This is how you treat Indian territory. There is an issue. It's a problem.
The modern day relevance of Kachhatheevu is what happens to the fisher folk. There have been instances, as the External Affairs Minister today detailed, more than 6,000 Indian fishermen in the last 30 years have been detained by Sri Lankan Navy and by Sri Lankan authorities. There have been instances where fishermen have been shot at as well. That is why, and this is a sensitive issue for the fisher folk of that belt. So why not talk about who gave away Kachhatheevu?
Zaka, first of all, my understanding of giving away something is that it must belong to me. Only if it belongs to me, I can give it to you or I can give it to anybody else. Now, the government of India, the Modi government, is on record saying that no territory has been given away as part of the 1974 agreement. So, crystal clear, an RTI reply of the Modi government when Mr. Jaishankar himself was the foreign secretary states categorically no territory was given away. So obviously either that 2015 position is false or the 2024 allegations are false. So one of them has to be false because they're directly contradictory. Second, the issue of Kachhatheevu is a long pending political issue, but it has completely lost its relevance as a major political issue or electoral issue in Tamil Nadu. Everybody knows that. This is not going to get any kind of traction in Tamil Nadu, but we'll leave that for the moment. Let's come back to the more important issue. In 1974, by the way, you must remember from yesterday, all the BJP spokespersons are quoting this 1958 Attorney General gave opinion. What about the 1970 opinion by the Attorney General of that time? In 1970, the Attorney General gives another opinion saying that this is I can read out that bit, Zaka, where the Attorney General in August 1970, after evaluating the relevant facts in relation to the manifestations of sovereignty and so on, the Attorney General concluded that on balance, the sovereignty of Kachhatheevu was and is with Ceylon and not India. Now, why don't they tell you this? Now, 1958, what the Attorney General said is relevant. What Jawaharlal Nehru said is relevant. But 1970, much closer to the 1974 agreement, what the Attorney General said is not relevant. Last point. Last point. Mrs. Gandhi had a clear requirement not to have international waters between India and Sri Lanka. And that was a very deliberate decision because it could then get Chinese ships in and US ships. We were very friendly with US at that time. So all of these complications. So it was a national security issue that she decided we will take Wedge Bank and we will give Kachhatheevu to them, meaning in a mutual exchange, not that either Wedge Bank belonged to India or Sri Lanka or Kachhatheevu belonged to India or Sri Lanka. Very last point, Zaka, one last point. This entire fisherman issue would have been resolved had Kachhatheevu been with India is complete nonsense. Please talk to any fisheries expert who knows that region. Many of our fishermen go way beyond into Sri Lankan territorial waters, and that is where most of them are caught. So please don't even try to give this spin that the fishermen's issue is entirely because of Kachhatheevu.
Smita Prakash, as recently as last year, I believe it was in July or August of last year, Mr. M.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, had written to the Prime Minister saying the transfer of Kachhatheevu to Sri Lanka was without the state government's consent. The transfer deprived Tamil Nadu fishermen of rights and impacted their livelihoods. Must address increased harassment by the Sri Lankan Navy on trespassing charges of fishermen belonging to Tamil Nadu. If he was saying this 6 months ago, What has changed between then and now for the DMK spokespersons? And vividly again, DMK is not sending its spokespersons for this debate. But why are they now saying that, Mr. Modi is just raking this up for election eve and electoral purposes, when the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu himself raised this less than 6 months ago?
Because all of them are raising it just because of elections. But before I speak on Kachhatheevu, Zak, I just want to talk about that briefly, about that exchange of conclaves on Bangladesh, which was mentioned by somebody. Yes, it was fructified during Prime Minister Modi's tenure, but the groundwork was laid by Dr. Manmohan Singh in his tenure. In fact, all you need to do is just check what Dr. Manmohan Singh said in Parliament. He actually appealed to the BJP, which was objecting, and there was Mamata Banerjee, who was objecting to all kinds of agreements that India wanted to do with Bangladesh at that stage. Okay, let's come to that. Bangladesh being said, now let's come to Katchatheevu. The irony is that I think all political parties know that everybody is playing it because of election-related outrage. Now, neither the fishermen issue, nor the Katchatheevu issue, nor the Hindi debate, nor the South being ignored narrative, none of this is really relevant to the people of Tamil Nadu at this stage. It's, as Annamalai said it quite graphically about some of the issues, he said it is like used chappal. It is like a useless issue. But then all these things will come up. Everything will come up, including Hindi will come up. Now, for long it was said that Katchatheevu Island had very little geostrategic value for India, which you said in your intro also. But with China now patrolling the Indian Ocean, India's priorities can change. What India's national security priorities were in 1970s, which Indira Gandhi did, today it might be different, similar to like was Siachen considered important enough to keep or not. In fact, Zaka, at one point of time, I remember very clearly people were talking about how Sar Creek can be low-hanging fruit when it comes to an agreement with Pakistan, so that Pakistan, in return, Pakistan can turn its eyes away from interfering in Kashmir matters. Later they realized, Sar Creek, where Gujarat, Chief Minister who? Modi. So it can become a little bit of a prickly issue, so let's not bring Sar Creek onto the table. But it did happen. There are many people who were talking about it near about Sharm el-Sheikh time. The fact is that we have given up territory for hundreds of years in this country. Whether it was done by the British in the 1800s, when it gave up Afghanistan, when it gave up Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and then in the 1900s we gave up Pakistan. I mean, we've been doing this continuously, giving up land and giving up China. Yes, we've given up to China also. Pakistan gave up land that it illegally occupied of India to China. We don't even talk about Aksai Chin. And then further salami slicing that China kept doing. So if we were to come back to Kachhatheevu to discuss that, unless Parliament today passes a resolution and the government of the day, whichever one comes to power in 2024, decides to renegotiate the entire decision to give up, or when we decided to give up for national security reasons or whatever, we decide now that for national security reasons we want it back.
Okay.
It's a whole complicated issue, a legal issue. It needs to be handled in a very sensitive manner.
Okay, so let me, since everyone is saying but not saying that this is being done with elections in mind, let me just show you on the magic wall why, or if at all, this issue will have relevance and resonance, and which are the parts of the state in Tamil Nadu where this issue might have some resonance. Now, remember, there is a large coastline. A coastline that runs into hundreds of kilometers all the way from Chennai, in fact even further up from Ennore in the north, and goes all the way to Kanyakumari in the south. What are those constituencies which could potentially, because of the Katchatheevu debate and this whole a debate that's been started by the Prime Minister, today the External Affairs Minister responded to it, and the Congress and the DMK are also responding to it. So let's start from the deep south, which is Kanyakumari. Remember, the BJP had a member of parliament in the last Lok Sabha. He was a minister, Mr. Punnar Radhakrishnan. He used to be the MP. He's already reacted to this issue. So Kanyakumari is one coastal constituency where you could see the impact of this. The further north from there, the Tirunelveli which was won by the DMK and the India Alliance back in 2019. And also the further north from Tirunelveli is the constituency of Thoothukudi, which of course the sitting MP is Kanimuri of the DMK, the daughter of Mr. Karunanidhi. She's the sitting MP. So this could potentially, Kachhatheevu could have an impact in these constituencies. Also further north, there is the Ramanathapuram constituency. In fact, Kachhatheevu is closest to the Ramanathapuram constituency, which this time around the BJP has given to Mr. O. Paneerselvam, who is the former chief minister, who is an ally, part of the National Democratic Alliance. He could have a potential impact. This issue could have a potential impact in this constituency of Ramanathapuram, and this could go all the way up further north to Nagapattinam, which is again where the tsunami happened famously back in 2004. So there are about a handful of constituencies, about 5 or 6, which could potentially be affected by this issue, if at all this issue picks up traction in the electoral battlefield that is Tamil Nadu. But let me go back to our guest, and I want to ask Shama Mohammed this. Shama Mohammed, to the point that Smita Prakash was making, that, you know, the Congress party cannot argue against the Modi government for ceding territory because all the way from, you know, Aksai Chin, the Shak Scam Valley, the land border agreements that was done with Bangladesh was initiated under Manmohan Singh. The only reason why Manmohan Singh was not able to sign that agreement was because of vehement opposition from Mamata Banerjee. Her electoral support was crucial to the UPA too, continuing to be in office. So for political reasons, you have given up territory on numerous occasions since independence. Why are you begrudging the Modi government if they bring this up and put this in the public domain and ask for the people of Tamil Nadu to decide who is the one who's conceded territory? And that's why Kachhatheevu is irrelevant.
So Smita Prakash has put out a very important point today, is that she says politicians bring about this during the election time. It is not the Congress party who's got it out. It is Mr. Narendra Modi. So she was referring to Mr. Narendra Modi, saying that he's brought it out for electoral gains or whatever, which according to Dr. Suman doesn't work. The other thing is, you talk about Aksai Chin. Yes, it was taken away from us, and we have never denied that. No, we never said that it was not taken away from us. Nehru said it is taken away from us. But here we have a prime minister.
No, but he made it out to be that not a blade of grass grows there. He made it out to be like it's not territory worth fighting for. He said it in Parliament.
No. See, listen, we admit to what happened. Now, and in 2020, when more than 2,500 square kilometers of Indian land has been taken by China, there's a prime minister who says, na koi gussa hai, na koi military post leke gaya hai. So he says nobody has entered into the land. But we have had 22 Corps Commander meetings. So what is that happening? Nobody knows. So of course it is out there that we've taken the land, and we all know about it, but nothing has been done to bring it back. Then she spoke about Bangladesh, where it started during the Manmohan Singh time. Well, if that is true, then why go ahead? Mr. Modi should have cancelled it and said, no, we are not going to give anything to Bangladesh. Why didn't he do it? Does he have the guts to do that? No, he wants to be friendly to our neighbors. See, that these are agreements which happen amongst neighbors. And that happens all over the world, and it does happen. Nothing wrong in it. And also, before 2014, the fishermen could go out and fish there. But after that, they can't. You know, there are issues. We can tell you that. So, you know, Mr. Modi, why did he bring this all of a sudden is the question. Like I said, if he's so fond of the Tamilians, why didn't he not include Sri Lanka in CAA? We know what is happening to Tamilians in Sri Lanka. I want to ask that to the
Pratyush Kant, if you so care about Tamils and the Tamilian populace, then why aren't you including Tamil Sri Lankans who have fled from Sri Lanka, are facing religious persecution, facing linguistic persecution, and have sought refuge in India? They should have been included as part of the CAA. They should be allowed to fast-track citizenship.
Zaka, quickly to answer your question, if you have read the CAA, it's all about religious persecution that happened in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. We all know that, we have read it. This doesn't suffice here. Now, coming back to your question,
why don't you include Sri Lanka? No, why don't you include Sri Lanka?
One second. Because the CAA deals with those who are fleeing from Muslim majority countries, from Islamic republics. Anyway, that's not the subject matter of today's debate. Please yield, Dr. Shama Mohammed. Let Pratyush Kant respond. Thank you. Yeah, Pratyush Kant.
I didn't disturb her at all. For your viewers, I would like to quote Nehru here. Verbatim, I will quote, I attach no importance at all to this little island, and I would have no hesitation in giving up our claim on it, unquote. Then this debate comes in Parliament, and Madam Gandhi chooses to abstain from the debate. Then in AICC meeting, she says, this island is a little rock. Now, this is what I wanted to show, quote and unquote, from the documents which is historically available. First, who told the Congress spokesperson that there were fishing happening before 2015? There were innumerable arrests, seizures. There was huge problem. If you start giving away Indian territory like this, with no heart, no feeling for the people of India, this is an issue. And Tamil Nadu government
Dr. Sumant Raman says... One second, ma'am. Your name is not Sumant Raman. I was asking Pratyush Kant. One second. Madam, no, please, don't intervene. Don't intervene like this. Bad manners. Pratyush Kant, Dr. Sumant Raman says this is a complete bogey to say that if India continue to keep control over Kachhatheevu, then these instances of fishermen being targeted and harassed will not happen. He says it's a complete misnomer, it's a complete bogey. Respond to that, Pratyush Kant.
Well, you have to understand one thing. If you are familiar with foreign policies, whatever past government has done, you have to respect that. So, our hands were tied when Modi government came in power in 2014. But we ensured the moment we came in power that no fisherman, no Indian vessel is left without anybody going and appealing for them. And most important in this debate, nobody is talking about the fact is that from 1950s till 1973 October, before 1974 this happened, every time the Tamil Nadu government was kept in loop. Today DMK cannot come and wash their hand and say we were not aware of it. It was Congress and DMK both who were aware of the fact that they were giving away this pressure island, which meant so much for Indian fishermen.
Okay.
It was
so,
economically
Sumant Raman,
important.
what about the role of the
Livelihood
DMK? Because the DMK has made this into a political issue on a number of occasions in the past. Now this RTI reveals that not only was Mr. Keval Singh, who was the secretary of the MEA, sent to convince Mr. Karunanidhi, but the RTI also says purportedly that Mr. Karunanidhi told Mr. Singh that I back you in private, but publicly I can't because of political compulsions.
Zaka, I would not put it past Mr. Karunanidhi to have said that. But I want Mr. Pratyush Kant to tell me, how big is Kachhatheevu, sir? How big is the island? You say that, Indian fishermen's lives have been lost because of that. And how big is the island, sir? Can you tell us? How many acres does it cover? Please, Zaka, please request him to tell us. I can see him reaching for the phone to look at, to Google it. But let me tell you, sir, it is hardly 300 acres.
I have data.
It is hardly 300 acres and 1.1 square kilometers. So it is, it is not like you think a huge island that has been given away. So you must understand that.
No. You are talking like Indira Gandhi. You are talking like Indira Gandhi. It's a rock for you. It's a rock for you. I have all the data with me. No. Your heart is somewhere else. Your heart is somewhere else.
Okay.
You are
one second, Pratyush Kant. One second. Let Sumant finish. One second, Pratyush Kant. Let Sumant finish. Yeah, you are.
Mr. Kant.
No, he was asking me a question.
Yeah. I get it. I'll come back to you on that. But let him finish.
1 minute. Please back whatever you're saying by showing the ownership documents for India over Kachhatheevu. Otherwise, don't keep on saying we gave away, which is a total. Either you are telling an untruth, or Dr. Jayashankar's ministry has told an untruth in their RTI reply in 2015. You make your mind up. Last point, Zaka. In Bangladesh, the exchange was India got 7,110 acres. India gave 17,000 acres. So what are we talking about? The Congress backed that in Parliament, saying it is for the greater good of the country that we solve this issue with Bangladesh, with our enclaves inside their territory and their enclaves inside our border and so on. And it was done with the support of the opposition parties. So Congress is not going and saying, why did you give away 10,000 acres more than what you got. There's got to be some logic in this.
Smita Prakash, ultimately, when you are in diplomacy, when you are trying to negotiate border agreements, whether it is maritime agreements or land border agreements, there will always be a degree of give and take. Does it make sense to rake up for, avowedly again, political purposes, electoral purposes, what was a well-established agreement with a friendly neighbor and has been in place for the last 50 years? The downstream consequences of this is not something that any of us can anticipate.
No, these are international agreements which will come in for criticism whenever there is politics done, which is fine. In a democracy, having difference of opinion, even on international issues or even on foreign policy, is all right. Where as far as the exchange of conclaves is concerned, I can't understand how the Congress is saying that it was out of the goodness of heart sitting in the opposition that they agreed to the BJP proposal. That's not the case. It's the other way around. The entire conclave, the blueprint was a Dr. Manmohan Singh blueprint. It was not, it was something that the opposition was fighting against. It was something that Mamata was fighting against. So when the BJP came in,
one second, only Smita Prakash, please, yeah.
Why are you interrupting? So it is what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that it was the Congress which had the blueprint. It was they who did it, which was fine. Nobody objected to it, but it was the politics of elections coming, which is why it happened. The other thing is that why do corps commanders meet happen? As far as how many rounds of corps commanders meet, we have a dispute on the boundary. We have a dispute on the border, which is our western sector. We have a dispute on the boundary, which is our eastern sector. The corps commanders meet so that exchange of firepower doesn't happen and the discussion can be done, and at some point of time we might be able to settle our boundary dispute. You don't just give it up because 20 happened. 200 can happen so long as our boundary is resolved.
Okay.
The other point which I want to make,
very quickly.
To come in. No, let me please complete. You had your say. Just a short point. Why now? Why now? Why after 50 years is a question which is kept repeating about the BJP. The thing about the BJP is that they just do not forget. If anybody thought that in the 1970s the BJP didn't even exist, at that time it was the Jan Sangh. That is how the BJP's mentality is. They put aside to bring it up at a politically suitable, opportune movement.
Okay.
And that is what they do.
I have to leave it at that. I have to leave it at that. No, one second. I am completely out of time. I do agree in part with the contention. No, sorry, that's it. That's a wrap. I'm calling time out on the debate. I do agree with the contention that part of this may be driven by political purposes, no doubt about it. The fact that it's been raised a few weeks before Tamil Nadu goes to elections, yes, is a point taken. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that historic agreements are cast in stone, that nation states do not renegotiate agreements that were signed 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Sometimes circumstances change, and certainly the circumstances around the Indian Ocean region have changed in the last 20 years. In 1974, China was not a player in the Indian Ocean region. Today, China is the most feared player in the Indian Ocean region, which is why the Quad was formed in the first place. So to say that you cannot renegotiate agreements that have happened 10 or 20 or 50 years ago because of changed circumstances, that is being, having feet of clay as far as diplomacy is concerned. I would all be for looking at agreements with a fresh pair of eyes if the situation warrants so. And yes, certainly in the context of China, the situation does warrant that. But can it be done outside of the 3 months of elections? Certainly it can.